How are you guys doing? Today is Monday, January 25th, 2021, out here in this quarantine. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, with last night's games, or with yesterday's games being finished, there are only two teams that are left playing for the Super Bowl 55 title to finish off the 2020-2021 NFL football season. And for this episode, of course, I'm going to walk you through the paths of both teams that got us here. And of course, I'm going to preview the actual matchup itself that's going to take place on Sunday, February 7th in Miami in Tampa Bay, as Tom Brady seeks to be the first quarterback, or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers seek to be the first team in NFL history to win the championship with the neutral location of the Super Bowl being in their city. That's never been done in the 54-year history of the Super Bowl, but it's going to be done this year. And starting with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, just going through a little bit of the Tom Brady saga. We already know the story. Tom Brady made the Super Bowl 9 times with the Patriots. Prior to this championship game, like this, he'd made it to 13 championship games in the AFC. He decided he needed a change of scenery. Went to Tampa Bay like this past offseason, led the team to the playoffs. They finished with the second best record in the NFC South behind the New Orleans Saints. So for the first matchup, they were supposed to go to DC to face off against the Washington football team. In this matchup, Tom Brady would throw for 400 yards and 2 touchdowns, while Leonard Fournette led the way with almost 100 yards on the ground to help them beat Washington, especially in the second half. They would win 31-23, and they would secure a spot for themselves in the divisional round, where they would face off against the New Orleans Saints, their divisional rivals, the team that actually beat them in the regular season. The Saints would be the only team that swept Tom Brady in a regular season matchup series, but this time the Buccaneers would end up taking this game, as they would separate from the Saints. Going into the fourth quarter, both teams were tied, but the Buccaneers would separate, winning this game 30-20, as Tom Brady would throw for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. It was an all-around game for the Buccaneers, but a big defensive game as they forced Drew Brees to throw 3 interceptions, and he's going to go into retirement, with the Buccaneers being the last team that beat him. And then going into yesterday's matchup, they went to Green Bay in Lambeau, and they were able to take over early and ride the momentum through the end of the game. Tom Brady was able to secure just through his amazing performance, just another goated performance. Like, Tom Brady is one of the goated players just on my list at his age. I mean, just yesterday he completed 20 of his 36 passes, throwing for 280 yards. He threw 3 picks, but he also threw 3 touchdowns. And he was able to secure his 10th ever Super Bowl appearance, which is insane when you think about the scope, how long he's been in the league, and he's really about to compete to try to win his 7th Super Bowl after beating Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, who I thought were the most complete team in the NFC. But of course, you never want to bet against Tom Brady. And in his first year in the NFC, he led the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win the NFC title, and he led them to a Super Bowl in the city of Tampa Bay, which has never been done by any team in NFL history ever. So of course, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are making history on one end of the spectrum. And with the win here, we could see Tom Brady's legacy, of course, just add another historic season to his resume. I mean, it already is, but we could see this man possibly walk away with another championship. But he has one other team that's looking at him from the other side of the aisle, and that's not a team that and it might be the best team that Tom Brady's ever faced in the playoffs. On the other end of the spectrum, you have the Kansas City Chiefs, who in the regular season dominated so much that they sat all their starters in their last game with the first round bye, and there was only one first round bye because they extended the playoffs. But just going off of that, their momentum, and then just their well-rounded ability to come together as a team, especially for big plays. It showed for them in the divisional round, where they took on the Cleveland Browns at home. Patrick Mahomes would end up going into concussion protocol, and after a good amount of after amazing play calling, they were able to pull out a very impressive, very clutch win over a very promising Cleveland Browns team, who the game before had beaten the Pittsburgh Steelers, who won their division. But of course, Following that game, with that win, they would secure a spot for themselves in the conference championship game yesterday, where they would end up beating the Bills at home pretty comfortably by a 38-24 margin. Patrick Mahomes pretty perfect, throwing for 325 yards and 3 touchdowns, and possibly leading the Chiefs to what could be their second straight Super Bowl. And you could argue that even looking at how dominant the Chiefs were last year, they look very strong this year. Patrick Mahomes looking more efficient with his passing. Travis Kelce set the regular season records for tight end yards in a season. Tyreek Hill had a crazy amount of touchdown passes or touchdown receptions. And don't forget, Kansas City has a crazy running game. And on the opposite side, they have all-pro NFL players on their defensive side of the ball. So I think this is really going to come down to just how the game plays out. Because on one end, I'm never going to bet against the man who made it to who will be attending his 10th, as in double digits, Super Bowl appearance. But at the same time, if there was one guy I would bet on to take him to overtake for just to beat the Buccaneers, to beat Tom Brady's team, I think it's the Chiefs. The Chiefs are a very thorough team. They're very complete. They have their own style. Their offense is virtually unstoppable. And they have a good playoff defense to the point where if they can score 40, 45, their defense can do a good job of holding great offenses to about 30 points, 35 max, which is just enough for them to outscore their teams, which is how the Chiefs have been winning, which is all you really need. I think the Chiefs have the recipe to outscore their opponent, but we've seen Tom Brady in the Super Bowl in every possible playoff scenario, and he rarely comes up short. So this is going to be a very amazing matchup, as on one end you might possibly have one of the greatest football player of all time in the sunset of his career. He could possibly retire after winning or losing the Super Bowl with he's seeking his 7th championship and trying to help the Buccaneers win a Super Bowl, especially with the TB trademark. Just the storyline there is almost perfect. And then on the other side, you have the highest paid player in American sports, or at least in football, I'm pretty sure. He's getting paid $50 million a year. He is the reigning Super Bowl MVP. And the year before that, he was the MVP the first year he started in the league. So this dude might go on to be the greatest ever. So I mean, it's the bridge of two eras. I think it's a very beautiful storyline. It's going to be an amazing game to watch. Even if it's a blowout, it's history in the making, as you kind of see this passing of the torch from the GOAT of Tom Brady to Patrick Mahomes if the Chiefs win. Because at the same time, if the Chiefs don't, if the Buccaneers win, Tom Brady still has the crown. We're going to find out who has the crown going in. As of right now, the Chiefs currently hold the crown. But we will see how that progresses as we move on to the Super Bowl. Going into next week, the next week is going to be the Pro Bowl. And I guess they're going to have to realize... it got canceled, but they still named Pro Bowl rosters. But the Super Bowl will be on the 7th on CBS at 6:30 in Raymond James Stadium in Tampa. It's going to be a very big game to watch. I'm definitely going to try to watch as much of it as I can. And I want to thank you guys once again for following me through this entire season. I mean, from all the way from the beginning, from around my birthday in September 2020, like we've made it all the way through, especially with the draft, everything going on with COVID. The fact that everything's going where it is now, and out of all possible Super Bowl matchups, we have Patrick Mahomes versus Tom Brady. I mean, it can't possibly get better. I want to thank you all once again for listening to all 9 minutes of this piece. Once again, today is Monday, January 25th, 2021. I hope all is well, and I will catch you with another installment. I guess my next installment would be the championship profile of the Super Bowl 55 champ on Monday, February 8th, once that game's over. Thanks once again, and I will catch you tomorrow with another daily episode. Peace out.